Hello and welcome to a new episode of Car Mechanic Simulator 2018. Now you might notice the Hellcat is now up here. I have it up here because I put much fatter tires on the rear, and now it has all race tires. Before it had like two 45s, and right now it has two 75s in the rear. Most likely, let's check here for a second. So right here's the tires that were on the rear. So yeah, I just changed the rear tires. I put race tires in the rear. See, the front still has the sport tires, but the rear tires are race tires, and the race tires have more grip, including they're much thicker, if you know what I mean. And you also might notice I decided to put some new rims on this. They're a slightly lower profile because I got two size bigger rims, 16, and you can see now I changed out the front steering knuckles and also the knuckle thingies in the rear, so it will handle a bit better. But this car is mostly done, so I'm just going to move this car over where I don't have to deal with it. Just show it over in the test path because I don't want to just have it there. And let's move this car over to lifter A. I think this car starts. Just take a look at it real quick. So this uses a more, I think that this engine might have already been in the game, but maybe I don't know. This is an extremely short exhaust. Of course, it is a car that is meant to be kind of like that. So the first thing we need to do here is lift this car up. We have it lifted off the ground. Let's look inside of here. So I click on suspension. Let's see. Engine. Here we go. So I start taking apart this engine. Take off the fuel rail there. Fuel filter. Let's see what we have here. So ignition wire cover. That's new. I haven't seen that before. There's a lot of custom assets to this engine. Can't wait to see the difference from this engine to when it's completely repaired. It's gonna be fun. Currently there's no oil in the engine. Not gonna have to worry about spilling stuff. So engine head cover. Let's take this off. It's funny how the screws on one side are really long and then on the other side the screws are really short. Now that looks a bit complicated. And right there's where all the spark plugs are. In this engine, we're going to be doing a bit different. We're going to be modifying a lot more parts than on the other one. Because if we look here, from factory, it made 117 horsepower on one and 171 pound-feet of torque. Well, that's Newton meters, so whatever that is in torque, I don't know, but still. I really want to see what it will make when I modify it. Because, like, just having that little amount of power is not good. You gotta have at least some oomph when you floor it. Get that starter out of there. I like how a lot of this stuff is easier access at the outside because of the way the engine is set up. So now we need to take off this weirder looking timing cover. Well, yeah, timing cover. So we got a ton of things here. We need to take off this crankshaft pulley so I have a little bit more room to work here. Speaking of room to work, let's remove the battery there. I'm going to do the stuff for like the suspension off camera, but I am going to show that in the end of this video. Okay, we also have a bottom section to this. How many sections is there? Oh, 4. That's a big amount for this small of an engine, just like covers everywhere. So, like, some parts I can just like leave completely untouched because, well, you know, just the way that this works type thing. Because there's a lot more on this engine that's covered up, I think. So I need to get that out somehow. I'll take this off. This I can pretty much fix just right now, but what do I need to do here? Oh, I need to take off this thing. That makes sense. Okay. So this comes off. That's a lot of screws. But it came off pretty fast. Camshaft and camshaft. Now we can take off this engine head. That air filter doesn't look the cleanest, I can definitely say that. So let's just take off the 2 remaining clips here. I know I'm kind of just jumping around, but that's fine. Now let's mount this back into place. I know I say mount, it doesn't make, nope. I'm gonna put the modified air filter in here so it looks cool. Only has 1% more horsepower, so there's that. Well, more power and torque, I guess. Now the clips, you don't really need to modify them. Well, not modify, fix them, because they're just clips. They're not going to affect performance whatsoever. And right here's the engine. So to take this gearbox off, I'm gonna need to take some of the suspension off too. So let's lift it up higher. There we go. And let's take this rim off. Okay. Now we need to take off this rear drive axle. While we're at it, I'm just going to remove some suspension bits and pieces. Okay, now that I have that off, I'm going to go over to this one again. This side looks a bit more rusted. Okay, I've taken off that now, so we can take off the gearbox. Now that the gearbox is off, we'll take off all the parts inside of the gearbox, and this really is rusty, isn't it? I'm not going to be replacing the crankshaft, because that's just a bit too much work that I don't really, well, I'm too lazy to deal with it, and it's not really going to affect my power too much. Wait, why am I even bothering to replace those? Oh yeah, so I am still going to take everything out though, because I want to replace the engine block with it, because I want this engine to look brand new. A few pieces are not going to be completely new. They're going to be the pieces that are on it right now, but that's not going to affect too much stuff, because they're not like obvious parts. And you can see there's no rear suspension left at all. So now I can just take the pistons out of here. And come on, there's the piston. I love the Hellcat because it is such a boat. It's super fun to drive because, like, well, if you're gonna run corners, it's not going to be a Miata whatsoever. So now we can start putting this engine back together. Alternator, battery, power steering pump. Meh, I'm just gonna do this one. So I'm just gonna do what I usually do, put as much stuff on here as possible without lifting it up, which is not too much stuff, but it is some. Let's take out this fuel pump and put in a performance fuel pump. And that's pretty much it, so we'll lift her up. Part mount, crankshaft, put in some of these bearing caps. All those are in. Let's go to these parts. I think I might have missed one part, possibly, but it shouldn't be too much. Yeah, I missed that part, but it's fine. I'm really hoping that, like, once we do this, like, it will make a lot of power. I wish they would put one thing that would be really cool to have is, so if you take a small engine like an inline 4 and fully modify it out, Like, you know, wait, don't want to do that. Like, fully modify it out to where it makes it crazy amounts of power. Like, there should be at least like a limit to what you can do. As in, like, if you go past a certain, like, threshold, I guess you could say, or something, the engine, like, blows up, essentially. Because when you have small engines, they can't take too much pressure. And when I say pressure, I mean as in, like, stress. Right now I'm just assembling the suspension. Okay, so what I'm going to do over here is put everything together. I'm also going to do things over here too. So let's join those together. Take that, place it here. Just the process of this. So at the moment I have most of the parts that I need. The only parts that I don't have are like the wheel for the fronts. The reason being is that I'm going to do the front suspension in not right now. I even bought new brake hardware. Now this rim looks 10 times as good because it's not rusted at all. Yeah, this car's going to look so good with everything new on it. Wait, so what size are these? These are the 215s, okay. The 215 is what I'm putting in the rear. I'm just gonna make sure this is the right size. Yeah, okay, I do have the right size stuff. And I'm gonna place this car back down. But I am going to, well, disassemble the whole front suspension. Okay. Just one more part for the front, and then we're done with the suspension. Okay, there we go. This car looks a lot nicer now. Now that it's down, let's go look into the engine. Mount. Piston. Piston rings are pretty much screwed, but I was too lazy to buy new ones. And, well, I'm just not gonna buy new ones. Like, there's pretty much no reason to. I mean, maybe a little bit of power loss, but not that much at all. So, yeah, this engine looks so much better now. Starter. Now the car will start up nicely. Well, actually, a bad starter just... There's no signs, it just will quit when it quits. That's just how starters work. Starters don't show any signs of damage. They just break. This is a very complex looking inside of an engine. It's a Lotus, that's probably why. Let's put our spark plugs in. And these will give us a tiny bit of power more. Spark plugs in real life also will not make hardly any bit of a difference. Maybe a very tiny bit. There we go. Ignition wires. Put on the fuel rail here. It's kind of essential to internal combustion. Gotta inject fuel. Serpentine belt. And like every engine, there's an idler roller. Well, pretty much every engine. Well, unless it's electric. But that would be a given. For internal combustion, at least. So, idler, that one's fine, it's just a small difference. Ignition coil, ignition thingy, ignition coil and line 4. I really don't see how that's an ignition coil, but it like runs from the, this like powers the ignition wires. So lift it up, and the paint on this is pretty much pristine. Now I'm gonna put a bunch of rod caps on. Yeah, this is a big difference because before all the rod caps were like completely black. Now let's put the oil pan on. Because we're up here, let's finish that. There's the oil filter. So, did I miss anything? No, I don't think so. Let's put it back down. And let's fill it up with some oil. There we go. And let's just go check the dipstick here. Perfect. Let's go move this over to the dyno then and see what type of power it makes. Okay. A moment of the truth. That rear end really goes down. 135. It's definitely a good amount more, but for an engine that is pretty much modified out, I don't know. The only way to truly see is if we take it out on a test. So here we are on the test track. It's pretty slow. It is like, I think it's funny how like it kind of feels like a flat 4 engine, but it's a normal engine. Well, at least somewhat. So like, because it feels like it has so little amount of torque. Yeah, it just feels like there's not too much torque there. Definitely didn't do well over that. If we go into the interior here. No, this car isn't really that fast, but I could see you driving this around like an area. So hopefully you liked this episode, and goodbye.